Is this your first job?
Yes, Doctor.
I'm going to ask you a few questions. I'd like you to write them down in English, please. Who is your father? Put that at the head of the page. And now the reply immediately underneath for quick reference.
I have no idea who my father was.
I'd better be frank, Miss Barkley. I can't hire you if you're in any way miraculous. It would be contrary to established practice. You did have a father, didn't you?
Oh, I'm sure I did. My mother was frugal in her habits, but she never economized unwisely.
Well, if you had a father, why can't you produce him?
He deserted my mother many years ago. She was a victim of an unpleasant attack.
Oh, she was a nun.
No, she was a chambermaid at the station hotel.
Fetch me that large leather-bound volume, will you? I have to check your story to safeguard my interests, you understand. Thank you. Station Hotel. Here we are. A building of small architectural merit built around the turn of the century. It was turned into a hotel by public subscription. I stayed there once myself as a young man. It has a reputation for luxury, which baffles the most undemanding guests. Oh, your story appears in the main to be correct. This admirable volume, of course, omits most of the details, but that is to be expected from a publication of wide general usage. Have a seat. Make a note to the effect that your father is missing. Say nothing of the circumstances that might influence my final decision. Is your mother alive, or has she too unaccountably vanished? Be careful, that's a trick question. You could lose points on your final score.
I haven't seen my mother for many years. I was brought up by Mrs. Barkley. She died recently.
I'm sorry. From what cause?
An explosion due to a faulty gas main. Killed her outright and took the roof off the house.
Did you apply for compensation?
Just for the roof.
Were there no other victims of the disaster?
Yes, a recently erected statue of former President Ronald Reagan. Parts of the great man were actually found embedded in my stepmother.
Which parts?
I'm afraid I can't help you there. I was too upset to supervise the funeral arrangements, or indeed to identify the body.
Oh, surely the Reagan family did that.
Yes, they were most kind.
You've had a unique experience. It's not everyone who has their stepmother assassinated by a public utility. Can I get you an aspirin?
No, thank you, sir. I don't want to start taking drugs.
Your caution does you credit, my dear. And now I'm going to ask you a few questions which may cause you embarrassment. Please try to remember that I am a doctor. What is your typing speed?
I can manage 20 words a minute with ease, sir.
And your shorthand?
I haven't mastered that yet. My money ran out, you see.
Well, perhaps you have other qualities which aren't immediately apparent. Kindly remove your stockings. I wish to see what effect your stepmother's death has had upon your legs.
Isn't this rather unusual, Doctor?
Have no fear, Miss Barkley. What I see before me isn't a lovely and desirable girl. It's a sick mind in need of psychiatric treatment. A woman once threw herself at me. I needn't tell you this is spoken in confidence. She was stark naked, and she wished me to misbehave myself. Do you know all that I was aware of was she had a malformed navel? That's how much account I take of women's bodies.
Oh, please forgive me, Doctor. I wasn't meaning to suggest your attentions were in any way improper.
Please. Just as I thought, you've a febrile condition of the calves. You'd be wise to have a checkup. Undress.
I've never undressed in front of a man before.
Well, I shall take note of your inexperience in these matters.
I couldn't allow a man to touch me while I was unclothed.
I shall wear rubber gloves, Miss Barkley.
How long would I have to remain undressed?
Well, if your reactions are normal, you'll be back to your feet in next to no time.
I'd like another woman present. Is your wife available?
Mrs. Prentice is attending a more than usually lengthy meeting of her coven. She won't be back until this evening.
I could wait until then.
I haven't the patience, my dear. I have a natural tendency to rush things, something which my wife has never understood. But I won't bore you with the details of my private life till you're dressed. Put your clothes on this. Lie on the couch, please.
What is Mrs. Prentice like, Doctor? I've heard so much about her.
Well, Mrs. Prentice is a nymphomaniac. Consequently, like the Holy Grail, she's ardently sought after by young men. I married her for her money, and upon finding her to be penniless, I throttled her. Mental aberration for which I've never quite forgiven myself. Needless to say, our marriage has been delicate ever since.
Poor Dr. Prentice. How trying it must be for you. I wish there was something I could do to help.
Oh, well, if you like, you could help me try out my new contraceptive device.
I'll be happy to help you in any way I can, Doctor.
Lie on the couch with your hands behind your head and think of the closing chapters of your favorite work of fiction. The rest may be left up to me.
Who are you talking to?
I must ask you not to enter my consulting room without permission.
Well, who are you talking to? There's no one here. Have you taken up talking to yourself?
I was dictating a memo to the head nurse. She's worried about her inability to control her bladder.
Can urine be controlled by thinking of one's favorite work of fiction? Hers is Tess of the D'Urbervilles, you know.
Whose?
The head nurse.
My theory is still in the planning stages. I'd rather not discuss it. Why have you returned so soon?
I arrived at the meeting to find the hall in an uproar. Helen Duchanan had just declared herself to be in love with a man. And as you know, the coven is primarily for lesbians. I myself am exempt from that rule because you count as a woman. By the time we expelled Helen, it was quite late, so I spent the night at the station hotel. It's difficult being a woman.
I'm sure you're the best judge of that. An emergency in Ward B. They need me in Ward B. I trust you'll have left by the time I return.
You can come in now. I'm not asking for my handbag back or for the money you've stolen. But unless my dress is returned, I shall file a complaint with your employer. You have until lunchtime.
I've already sold the dress for a lump sum. I could get it back at a price. I've also found someone to take an option on the photographs.
What photographs?
I had a camera concealed in the room.
When I gave myself to you, the contract didn't include movie rights.
I want 100 for the negatives. You've got till lunchtime.
I shall file a complaint with your employer.
He'll do you no good. He took the photographs.
This is scandalous. I'm a married woman.
You didn't behave like a married woman last night.
I was upset. A lesbian friend of mine had just announced her engagement to a member of Congress.
You must be more careful in your choice of friends. Look, I could reconsider. I want to get out of the indecent photograph racket. It's so wearing on the nerves. Could you find me a worthwhile job? I had a hard boyhood.
What kind of job do you want?
I'm an expert typist. I was taught by a man in the printing trade.
I'll pay for the photographs, but I can't possibly recommend you for typing.
I want 100 for the negatives and the job of secretary to your husband.
You put me in an impossible position.
No position's impossible when you're young and healthy.
Who is he?
I neglected having lost my handbag at the station hotel. Well, this young man was nice enough to give me a ride home on his motorbike.
Oh, drinking so early, you'll be drunk before lunch.
Have you a family, sir?
No, My wife said breastfeeding would spoil her shape, although from what I remember it would have been improved by a little nibbling. She's an example of inbreeding among the poppy-growing classes. A failure in eugenics combined with a taste for alcohol and sexual intercourse makes it most undesirable for her to become a mother.
I hardly ever had sexual intercourse.
You were born with your legs apart. They'll send you to the grave in a Y-shaped coffin.
My trouble stems from your inadequacy as a lover. That's my reason for never having an orgasm.
How dare you say that? Your book on the climax in the female is largely autobiographical. Or have you been masquerading as a sexually responsive woman?
My uterine contractions have been bogus for some time.
What a discovery. Married to a mistress of the fraudulent climax. It's no good. It's no good lying there, Miss Barkley. My wife has returned.
Will she be able to help with the examination?
The examination is canceled until further notice. Get dressed.
Has your new secretary arrived?
Yes, I've got her particulars somewhere.
Have you ever considered a male secretary?
Oh, no, a man could never get used to the work.
My father had a male secretary. My mother said he was much better than a woman.
Well, I couldn't ask a man to do overtime and then palm him off with a lipstick and a bottle of Chanel. If I so much as touched him, it'd be silk suits and BMWs.
Try a boy for a change. You're a rich man. You can afford the luxuries of life.
I couldn't possibly. I've already given Miss Barkley a preliminary interview.
Well, you must explain. What are you doing? What are you doing with the dress?
It's an old one of yours.
Have you taken up transvestism? I didn't realize that our marriage teetered on the edge of fashion.
Our marriage is like the work of God. It passeth all understanding.
Give it to me because I need it.
Could I have the one you're wearing in exchange?
I'm not wearing a dress.
Why aren't you wearing a dress?
I'll tell you frankly and with complete candor, but listen carefully and save your comments for later. My room at the Station Hotel was small, hairless, and uncomfortable. A model of its kind. When I went to turn down the bed, I noticed that the sheets were none too clean. I went to the second floor, looking for the linen closet, hoping to find a chambermaid. I instead found the bellboy, the one, in fact, that was just here. He enticed me into the closet and made an indecent suggestion. When I repulsed him, he attempted to rape me. I managed to fight him off, but not before he had stolen my handbag and my dress.
Doesn't sound like the kind of behavior one expects from a 4-star hotel.
The boy promised to return my dress. He sold it to a friend who probably intends on using it in sex orgies.
Do you realize what would happen to me if your adventures became public? I'd be ruined. The doors of society would be slammed in my face. Did you report this to the police?
No.
Why not?
I saw in the boy a natural goodness, one that had all been destroyed by the pressures of society. And I promised to find him employment.
What qualifications does he have?
He can type.
There aren't many jobs for male typists.
Exactly. He's been depressed by his failure in business. That's why he took to rape.
Well, how do you hope to employ him? Is there a market for illegal entrance?
I don't intend on leading him into a dead-end job. I want you to hire him as your secretary. He'll be back soon. You can check his credentials at your own leisure. Where's Miss Barkley?
She's upstairs.
I shall inform her that the position is no longer vacant.
Darling, could I borrow one of your dresses?
I find your son craving for women's clothing a dull and on the whole distasteful subject.
The situation is fraught, Miss Barkley. My wife is under the impression that your dress is hers.
Well, can't we explain as tactfully as possible that she's made a mistake?
No, I'm afraid not. You'll have to bear with me a little longer.
Doctor, I'm naked. You do realize this, don't you?
Oh, indeed I do, Miss Barkley. It must cause you acute embarrassment. I'll set about finding you suitable clothing.
Good morning. Are you Dr. Prentice?
Yes. Do you have an appointment?
Oh, I never make appointments. I represent our government. Your immediate superiors in madness.
Which branch?
The mental branch.
Do you cover asylums proper or just houses of tentative madness?
My authority is unlimited. Why, I have the power to close your clinic at a moment's notice should I find it necessary. I'd even have a sway over a rabbit hutch if the inmates were mentally disturbed.
Oh, well, you sound like a force to be reckoned with.
Indeed I am. And I hope our relationship will be a pleasant one. I'd like to be given full details of your clinic. It's run, I understand, with the full knowledge and permission of the local hospital authorities. You specialize in complete breakdown and byproducts?
Yes, but my files are highly confidential and never open to strangers.
You may speak freely in front of me, Prentice. Remember, I represent our government. Now, is this your consulting room?
Yes.
And what's down this corridor?
The door on the left leads to the pharmacy, and the doors at the end lead to the wards.
Is your couch regulation size? It looks big enough for two.
I do double consultations. Toddlers are often afraid to be examined, so I took to examining their mothers at the same time.
Has the theory received much publicity?
Oh, I don't approve of scientists who publicize their theories.
I must say I agree with you. I wish more scientists would keep their ideas to themselves. Is this something to do with you?
It's a prescription, sir.
Keep your head down and don't make a sound. Do you find your patients react favorably to such treatment?
I can claim to have had some success, yes.
Your ideas, I think, are in advance of the times. Why is there a naked woman behind there?
She attacked me, sir. I just managed to calm her down when you arrived.
You were attacked by a naked woman?
Yes.
Well, Prentice, I don't know whether to applaud your daring or envy your luck. I'd like to question her.
Miss Barkley, someone wishes to speak to you.
I can't meet anyone without my clothes on, Doctor.
Notice the obstinacy with which she clings to her suburban upbringing.
Have you tried shock treatment?
No.
How long has she been a patient?
The committal order hasn't yet been signed.
Fill it out. I'll sign it.
But that's hardly my procedure, sir, to certify someone before examining them.
The government requires certification before examination. Young lady, why did you take your clothes off? Did it never occur to you that your psychiatrist might be embarrassed by your behavior?
But I'm not a patient. I'm from the Friendly Faces Employment Bureau.
When did these delusions first manifest themselves?
I've been aware of them for some time, sir.
Did you imagine that any businessman would tolerate a naked typist in his office?
Dr. Prentice asked me to undress in order that he might discover my fitness for the tasks ahead. There was no suggestion of my working permanently without clothing.
I shall take charge of this case. It appears to have all the bizarre qualities that make for a fascinating thesis. Make the necessary entry into your register and alert your staff of my requirements. Young lady, is there any history of mental illness in your family?
I find your questions irrelevant. I refuse to answer them.
I've just certified you insane. You know that, don't you?
What right have you to take such high-handed action?
Every right. You've had a nervous breakdown.
I'm quite sane.
Pull yourself together. Why have you been certified if you're sane? Even for a mad woman, she's unusually dense. Put that on.
Oh, thank you, Doctor. It will be a great relief to be clothed again.
What is the background of this case? Has the patient any family?
Yes. Her stepmother died recently after remarkably close involvement with Ronald Reagan.
And what of the father?
Well, he seems to have been an unpleasant fellow, sir. He made her mother pregnant at her place of employment.
Was there any reason for such conduct?
Well, the patient is reticent on the subject.
I find that strange and very revealing. Prepare a sedative.
Please call a taxi, sir. I wish to return home. I haven't the qualities required for this job.
Lie on that gurney. You're slowing down your recovery rate, Miss Barkley. accept your condition without tears and without abusing those placed in authority.
Am I mad, Doctor?
No.
Are you mad?
No.
Is this candid camera?
There's a perfectly rational explanation for what has just taken place. Keep calm and all will be well.
Miss Barkley is nowhere to be found.
She is under strong sedation and no account to be disturbed.
Oh, my wife refers to my secretary, sir. She's been missing since this morning.
I'm Miss Barkley, looking for part-time secretarial work. I've been certified insane.
Ignore these random reflections, Mrs. Prentice. They're an essential factor in the patient's condition. Does she have the same name as your secretary?
Oh, she's taken on my secretary's name as a nom de folie, sir. Although morally reprehensible, there's little we can do legally, I'm afraid.
Seems a trifle capricious, but the insane are famous for their wild ways.
Miss Barkley can't have vanished into thin air. I'll call the employment agency.
Oh, my wife is unfamiliar with the habits of young women, sir. I've known many who could vanish into thin air and some who took a delight in doing so.
In my experience, young women only vanish at midnight and after an expensive meal. Were your relations with your secretary normal?
Yes.
Well, Prentice, your private life is your own affair, but I find it shocking nonetheless. Did the patient know of your liaison with Miss Barkley?
Oh, she may have, yes.
I see. A definite pattern's beginning to emerge. Now, under the influence of the drug you've just administered to Miss Barkley, she will be relaxed and unafraid. Thank you. Now, I'm going to ask you some questions that I would like answered in a clear, non-technical style. She'll take that as an invitation to use bad language. Who was the first man in your life?
My father.
Did he assault you?
No.
She may mean yes when she says no. It's an elementary feminine psychology. Was your mother aware of your love for your father?
I lived in a normal family. I had no love for my father.
I take a bet that this girl's been the victim of an incestuous attack. She clearly associates violence and the sexual act. Her attempt, when naked, to provoke you to a erotic response may have deeper significance. Did your father have any religious beliefs?
I'm sure he did.
Yet she claims to have lived in a normal family. Did your father's church sanction rape? Some religions will turn a blind eye to anything as long as it's kept within the family circle. Was there a church service before you were assaulted?
I can't answer these questions, Doctor. They seem pointless and disgusting.
I am interested in rape, Miss Barkley, not the aesthetics of cross-examination. Answer me, please. Were you molested by your father?
No!
The vehemence of her denials is proof positive of guilt. It's a textbook case.
Yes, and it's so cleverly put together. Does it tie in with known facts?
That need not cause us undue anxiety. Civilizations have been founded and maintained on theories which refuse to obey facts. As far as I'm concerned, this child was unnaturally assaulted by her own father. And I shall base my future actions upon that assumption.
Well, perhaps there's a simpler explanation for the apparent complexities of the case, sir.
Simple explanations are for simple minds, and I've no use for either. I shall supervise the preparation of the patient's hair.
The young man is here.
Oh!
What's the matter? Are you in pain?
Yes. Could you get me a glass of water?
Here you are. Put those back at once.
Oh!
Should I call the doctor?
No.
Drink this.
Could you get me another glass? That one's the wrong shape.
The wrong shape.
Yes, the wrong shape.
are you doing now?
Oh, praying.
This puerile behavior ill accords with your high academic standards. Drink this. The young man I wish you to hire as your secretary has arrived.
Could you tell him to wait a minute? I'm not up to seeing anyone just now.
Well, I'll ask, but he's an impatient young man.
Is that why he took to rape?
You'll have no trouble recognizing the patient, Prentice. I've slicked her hair back flat to her scalp.
Well, was it wise to do that, sir? I mean, is it in accord with the present approach to the mentally ill?
Perfectly in accord. As a matter of fact, I published a paper on the subject. I wrote it while studying at the Psychic Institute. My professor advised it. A remarkable man. Having failed to achieve madness himself, he took to teaching it to others.
You were his prized pupil?
There were some more able than I.
Where are they now?
In mental institutions.
Oh, running them.
For the most part.
The young man insists upon punctuality. He'll give you 5 minutes.
Prospective employee, sir. He'll give me just 5 minutes.
Very well.
It's useless to claim that socialism has had no effect.
Is there no news of Miss Barkley?
None. She's still missing, and I've contacted the employment agency. Their clients have strict instructions to call immediately after an interview, and Miss Barkley failed to do so.
A search party must be organized. What have you in the way of dogs?
A spaniel and a miniature poodle.
Let them be unleashed. Miss Barkley must be found or the authorities informed.
I'll contact the guard. He'll know whether she's left the building.
No, don't do that.
Why?
I've just remembered. Miss Barkley is in the therapy workshop.
Why have you kept that fact from us?
It slipped my memory.
Have you suffered from lapses of memory before?
I can't remember.
Your memory plays you false, even on the subject of its own inadequacy?
Well, I may have had a blackout, sir. I don't recall ever having one before.
You might have forgotten, but you'll admit your memory isn't reliable.
Well, I can only remember what I remember, sir. I can't remember the things I've forgotten.
What's Miss Barkley doing in the therapy workshop?
She's making white tar babies for sale in color prejudice trouble spots.
You claim, Prentice, that you forgot that your secretary was manufacturing these monstrosities?
Yes.
Well, I can hardly credit it. One scene of white tar baby is not easily forgotten. What was the object in creating these nightmare creatures?
I hoped it might promote racial harmony.
These hellish white mutations must be put out of their misery. I order you to destroy them before their baleful influence can make itself felt.
I'll get Miss Barkley to do it.
The man's a second Frankenstein.
I don't believe we've been introduced.
I represent our government, the mental branch. I'm here to investigate your husband's clinic, and I find his behavior gives me cause for grave disquiet. Tell me, do you believe that his methods can lessen the tension between the sane and the insane?
The purpose of my husband's clinic isn't to cure, but to liberate and exploit madness.
In this he appears to succeed only too well. Never have I seen affairs conducted as they are in this house. Read that.
Keep your head down and don't make a sound. What does this mean?
It's a prescription of your husband's. He's using dangerously unorthodox methods in his treatment of the insane.
I must admit that only this morning my husband prescribed a reading of Thomas Hardy to clear a disorder of the bladder.
Now, you see what I mean? Have there been any other schemes besides this tar baby scandal?
Endless ones. His letters to the newspapers are legion. From his first at the age of 12, speculating on the nature and extent of Nazi propaganda, to his latest, published only a month ago, in which he calls gentlemen's lavatories the last stronghold of male privilege. Tell me, doctor, is my husband a genius or just a highly strung fool?
As a psychiatrist, your husband seems not only ineffective, but also undesirable.
Oh,
What is it?
a shoe?
Is it yours?
No.
Let me see it. I must ask you to be honest with me, Mrs. Prentice. At any time has your husband given you cause to doubt his own sanity?
He's a respected member of his profession. His work in all fields has been praised by numerous colleagues.
Let me remind you that radical thought comes easily to the lunatic.
You're quite right. I've known for some time that all's not well. I've tried to convince myself that my fears were groundless. All the while, I knew I was deceiving myself.
What first aroused your suspicions?
His boorish attitude towards my mother. He used to call her up on the phone and suggest painful ways of committing suicide. Worn out at last by his pestering, she took his advice.
And say from this morning, has there been an increase in his condition?
Quite definitely. He had no sympathy for me when I complained of being assaulted by a bellboy from the station hotel.
What was the object of the assault?
He wanted to rape me.
Did he succeed?
No.
The service in these hotels is dreadful.
And now he's acquired a strange craving for women's clothing.
And this confirms your story. I've no doubt what you've told me has great significance. We must also take into account his admitted lapse of memory and his attempt to create alien forms of life. Say nothing of our suspicions. Fancies grow like weeds in the unhealthy soil of a sick brain. Have you carried out my instructions?
Yes.
You guilty scientists will ruin the world with your shameful secrets. Does this belong to your secretary?
No. It's mine.
Are you in the habit of wearing women's footwear?
My private life is my own. Society must not be too harsh in its judgments.
Where is this secretary of yours? I have a few questions to put to her.
I can't allow you to disturb her.
I don't think you quite appreciate your position here, Prentice. The powers vested in me by the government give me the right to interview any member of your staff should the occasion demand, such as him. Ooh. Ha! Where is your secretary?
She's in the garden.
Ask her to step this way.
Oh, she's making a funeral pyre for the tar babies. It would be wrong to disturb her.
Then I shall seek her out myself. You may be sure, Prentice, that your conduct will not go unreported.
What have you told him?
Nothing but the truth.
You've been spreading around rumors that I'm a transvestite, haven't you?
There was a shoe hidden in the bookcase. What was it doing there?
What were you doing rooting among my books?
I was looking for the clippings file to show Dr. Rance.
You'd no right to do that.
Are you ashamed of the fact that you write to strange men?
There's nothing suspect about my relationship with the editor of the Times.
Dr. Rance and I are worried about you. We're not satisfied with your condition.
Neither am I. It's impossible, and you're to blame.
Whose fault is it that our marriage is on the rocks? You're selfish and inconsiderate.
Your irresponsibility causes me untold anxiety. Your nymphomania knows no bounds.
You have no psychological understandings of the problems that I face.
If you're not careful, you'll find yourself in a suitcase awaiting collection.
These veiled threats only confirm the doubts I have about your sanity.
I'm tired of waiting, madam. I believe this is yours. Do you want it?
My dress!
A dress? I'll take that.
I'll tell Dr. Rance that you stole one of my dresses.
Don't raise your voice.
If you'll hand over the money, madam, I'll let you have the photos. However, some guarantee of employment must be given before I part with the negatives.
What's he talking about?
He has in his possession a series of pornographic studies of me that he took without my permission.
I suppose I shall have to turn pedophile to get you out of this mess. Take a cookie from the jar and retire to your room.
I am sorry, sir, if my behavior last night caused your wife undue anxiety, but I have a burning desire to sleep with every woman I meet.
That's a filthy habit, and in my opinion, very injurious to the health.
It is, sir. My health's never been the same since I stopped stamp collecting.
We have an overall moral policy in this clinic from which even I am not exempt. While you're under my services, I shall expect you to take an interest in no one's private parts but your own.
I would miss a lot of fun that way.
That's the purpose of the exercise.
I can find no trace of your secretary, Prentice, and I might add my patience is all but exhausted. Unless I discover her whereabouts within the next few minutes, you'll find yourself in serious trouble.
They've called from the front hall. There's a policeman, and he'd like to speak to a member of the household.
Tell him I'll see him in a couple minutes.
Oh, sir! They've come to arrest me!
This paranoia is uncalled for. The officer has probably called to ask me for the hand of my cook in marriage.
Oh, you're hung, sir! I'll give you 5 years if I'm caught.
Please try to get a hold of yourself. Are you going to be all right?
Yes, sir.
Why are you in danger of being placed under arrest?
Well, sir, as your wife already told you, I attempted to misbehave myself with her last night. I didn't succeed.
Well, that's not surprising. Contrary to popular belief, my wife is harder to get into than a mummy's tomb.
Undeterred, I took an elevator to the 3rd floor of the hotel, where I knew a group of schoolgirls to be staying. Oh, sir, what lonely and aimless lives they lead. I did what I could to bring them some happiness.
Was there no chaperone in attendance?
She occupied the room across the corridor.
Did you disturb her?
No, and she'll never forgive me for it. It was she who reported the incident to the police. Oh, sir, don't turn me over to the law!
I warn you, Prentice, unless you're prepared to cooperate in fighting Miss Barkley, I shall call upon you to account for her disappearance. If you're unable to do so, the authorities must be informed.
Therapy. Take your clothes off.
Are you gonna fool around with me, sir?
Certainly not. Is that what usually happens when men ask you to take your clothes off?
Yes, they usually give me money.
How much? Never mind. Strip. I want you to impersonate my secretary. It's of extreme importance that you convince him you're her. He's an elderly gentleman, and I don't suppose he's checked in with the original lately. Now, that having done, plead illness and leave the house. I shall be waiting with a ticket and a sum of money. If you're found out, I shall deny all knowledge of you.
The policeman is still waiting. What devilry are you up to now?
I'm conducting an examination.
You're a psychiatrist. Why do you need the child's clothes on?
Well, my investigations upon his clothed body would be superficial and unscientific. To assure myself of his usefulness, I must examine him fully and skin-wise.
You ogre! Never in my life have I heard something so lame and stupid. This volley will get you struck from the AMA. Come along with me, dear.
What do we do now, sir? If that policeman comes in, I can't even make a run for it.
Dress in there. Would you step this way, Sergeant?
Shoes, sir!
Shoes! Would you please wait outside?
You asked me to come in, sir.
I don't believe I did.
Why do you keep giving me those flowers?
Oh, it's because I'm very fond of you, my dear.
Your actions grow wilder with each passing moment. Why were you rude to the police officer?
Well, he barged in without so much as a by your leave.
He said you asked him to come in. Or had you forgotten?
I may have. My memory isn't what it used to be. Please tell him I'll see him now.
Dr. Prentice!
Miss Barkley, what are you doing here?
Well, I don't know.
Sorry for the misunderstanding, sir.
Wait outside!
You don't wish to see me?
No.
Nothing would induce me to remain on your staff a moment longer. I wish to give notice.
Please give me a moment to rectify the situation. Your disclosures could ruin me.
We must put matters right by telling the truth.
Hide in here. No harm will come to you. You have my word as a gentleman.
We must tell the truth.
It's a thoroughly defeatist attitude.
At least give me my clothes back. I feel naked without them.
And if he gives me those flowers one more time, I shall faint. He's cut the stalks off. His lunacy is beyond belief.
You must forgive my wife's behavior, sir. She was attacked last night. Her recovery is far from complete.
I understand Mrs. Prentice introduced the young man to you, sir.
Well, yes, but we won't prefer charges.
I believe your wife would be ill-advised in not repeating her experiences before a judge and jury. However, as it happens, I'm not concerned with this case. I am concerned with the young man's movements between midnight and 7 a.m. this morning. During this time, he's alleged to have misconducted himself with a group of school children.
How vile and disgraceful.
Yes, ma'am. And after a medical examination, our female doctor's up in arms. She can't wait to meet the fellow face to face.
Oh. Well, Sergeant, he's not on the premises. If he turns up, you'll be informed.
How dare you give misleading information to the police officer? He was here. I have his uniform upstairs.
It's very wise of you to confiscate his clothing, ma'am. If more women did the same, the number of rape cases would be halved.
Or doubled.
Disregard anything my husband says. I'll get the uniform.
I'm more anxious to trace the whereabouts of a young woman called Barkley. Can you help me with my inquiries?
Well, why do you wish to see Miss Barkley?
It's a matter of national importance.
I specialize in patients who are allergic to sound. They've been known to become violent at the merest whisper. Have a seat.
Miss Barkley's stepmother, a woman of otherwise unblemished character, died recently. And shortly before her death, her name had become linked in a most unpleasant way with that of former President Ronald Reagan. Upon reconstruction of the great man, it became evident that certain parts were missing. Mrs. Barkley's coffin was exhumed, and it became apparent that she had taken nothing to the grave with her except those parts which she ought to have. That's when this matter came to the attention of the police.
So you suspect Miss Barkley of having stolen certain parts of former President Ronald Reagan?
Why, yes.
Sergeant, here's proof that the young man was in the room.
I'll say you can't get far without clothing.
His progress without clothing last night was enviable.
You still claim to have no knowledge of the young man's whereabouts?
Yes.
And what has become of Miss Barkley?
I've no idea.
You told Dr. Rance she was burning tar babies. Or was that a lie?
I can't remember.
Sergeant, you must speak to Dr. Rance. He's from the government. He'll be able to explain my husband's strange behavior patterns. Seek him out and tell him that his specialized knowledge is urgently required.
Where might the doctor be then?
In the garden. Now, darling, try to figure out why you damaged the flowers in these vases. It might have direct bearing on the case.
Tell the truth, sir. All your problems spring from a lack of candor.
My problems spring from a misguided attempt to seduce you.
You never told me you were trying to seduce me. You said you were interested in my mind.
Are you sure Dr. Rance is out there, sir?
Yes.
Where might he be then?
In the shrubbery. We've a naked elf on a bird bat. We've a problem with peeping toms.
I think I'd like you to accompany me, Doctor. Dr. Prentice!
Are you Geraldine Barkley?
Yes.
Well, where have you been?
I have been attending to the personal duties that occupy the other secretary during her working hours.
It doesn't take all morning to file your nails, Shirley.
I had to lie down. I was sick, and don't call me Shirley.
Are you pregnant?
I can't discuss my employer's business with you.
Well, what was your last job?
I was a hostess at the 1-2-3 club.
It's obvious that you are unsuited to work here. I shan't recommend you for employment. Ah, Sergeant, this is is Miss Barkley. She'll be happy to help you with your inquiries.
Miss Barkley, I must ask you to produce or cause be produced the missing parts of former President Ronald Reagan.
What do they look like?
You claim ignorance in the structure and the object sought?
I'm in the dark.
You only handle them in the dark. Guess I'll have to draw my own conclusions from that.
Oh, I'm not the sort of girl to get mixed up in that kind of thing. I'm an ex-member of the Brownies.
Are you concealing unlawful property about your person?
No!
I'm going to have to call for a medical examination to prove your story, miss. You must be thoroughly looked into.
I'm a qualified doctor.
Only women are permitted to search female suspects.
Oh, doesn't that breed discontent in the force?
Among the single men, there is some bitterness. However, the married men who are familiar with the country are glad to be left off extra map reading.
Sergeant, I'll examine Miss Barkley.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll accept your kind offer.
Come along, Miss Barkley.
Prentice, the patient has escaped. I've sounded the alarm.
How long has the patient been missing, doctor?
Only a few minutes. This is her gown. She must be naked then.
Any steps you feel may be necessary to recovering the patient may be taken, sir. She must have come through this room. You and I were out in the garden, and Mrs. Prentice was upstairs. Escape would be impossible. Ha! Only one hiding place left. Are you from the station hotel?
Yes.
I'd like a word with you, my lad. You're under arrest. Hotel.
Yes.
I'd like a word with you, my lad. You're under arrest.
You have no idea how glad I am to be arrested.
Why?
I'm in great danger.
From whom?
Dr. Prentice. His conduct is scandalous. Take me to prison. I shall prefer charges.
What do you have to say for yourself?
And what this young woman claims is a tissue of lies.
This is a boy, not a girl. If you're baffled by the difference, it might be wise to approach both with caution. Let's hear what you have to say for yourself.
I came here for a job. On some pretext, the doctor got me to remove my clothes. Afterwards, he behaved in a strange manner.
Did he at any time attempt to interfere with you?
You'll be disappointed, Sergeant, if you imagine that boy has lost his virginity.
I hope that boy is considerably more experienced before he loses that, sir. What reason did you have for taking off his clothes?
I wish to assure myself of his unquestioning obedience. I give a prize each year.
Have you been in this kind of trouble before?
I'm not in trouble.
May I remind you, Doctor, the boys brought a serious charge against you.
Oh, yes, and it's ridiculous. I'm a married man.
Marriage excuses no one from the freak's roll call.
I'm a respected member of my profession. Your accusations are absurd.
It's not up to me to make accusations in a matter I don't fully understand.
Well, the boy has an unsavory reputation. Last night requires explaining before this morning.
I had nothing to do with the disgraceful happenings at the station hotel.
You deny that on the night of Thursday last you did behave in an obscene manner with a class from the Abbey Road School for Girls?
Yes.
Nicholas Beckett, may I remind you that anything you say can and will be taken down as evidence against you.
I'm not Nicholas Beckett.
Then why would you suppose I'd wish to arrest you?
To safeguard my interests?
You imagine you'll be safe from acts of indecency in a police station?
Of course.
Wish I shared your optimism.
Full security arrangements are in force. No one is to leave this clinic without my written permission. Prentice, have your secretary issue warrants to every member of your staff.
I'll do that, sir, as soon as she's able to resume her normal duties.
Are you Dr. Rance?
Yes?
Could you help clear up a spot of trouble? It's a matter of some urgency. Last night, this boy misconducted himself with a group of female school children. This morning, he had been abused on his own turn.
What can I say? It's a case of be done by as you did.
The boys brought a serious charge against Dr. Prentice. He claims he was forced to strip and lie naked on a couch.
A complete list of your indiscretions would make a bestseller. Have you behaved in an unseemly manner?
Oh, no. It's just that my nerves are on edge.
You should consult a qualified psychiatrist.
I am a qualified psychiatrist.
No, you're a fool. That isn't quite the same thing. Though in your case, the two may have much in common. Has the boy come to your notice before?
Not in a case of this kind. That's why we have to be careful. As the doctor rightly says, the boy has an unsavory reputation. It could be that he bears Dr. Prentice a grudge.
Perhaps his accusation springs from disappointment. It might have been wiser if you hadn't rejected the young fellow's blandishments.
Well, unnatural vice can ruin a man.
Ruin follows the accusation, not the vice. Had you committed the charge, you wouldn't now be facing it.
Couldn't have committed the act. I'm a heterosexual.
I wish you wouldn't use these Freudian words. They're most confusing. How do you propose we get to the bottom of this affair?
A reputable person must examine the lad.
I refuse to be examined.
You can't refuse to be examined. You're under arrest.
I'm not Nicholas Beckett. I want to be taken to prison.
If you aren't Nicholas Beckett, you can't go to prison. You're not under arrest.
I am Nicholas Beckett.
Then you are under arrest, and you will submit to a medical examination.
And I shall conduct it. The mind of a victim of this kind of assault must be considered equally with the body.
I haven't been assaulted.
Then why make such a foul accusation?
I didn't accuse anyone. The sergeant made the accusation.
Has Dr. Prentice assaulted you too? Is it policemen or young boys you're after? At your age, it's high time you came to a decision. Wait outside. I'll examine the boy and make my report. Afterwards, I'll take a look at you too.
At me, sir?
Yes, we can't be too careful.
Seems a bit unusual.
You're in a madhouse. Unusual behavior is the order of the day.
Only for the patients.
We've no privileged class here. We practice democratic lunacy. Take your pants off.
I shouldn't have behaved as I did, sir. I wasn't harmed.
You enjoyed the experience? Would you enjoy normal intercourse?
No, I might get pregnant or be the cause of pregnancy in others.
He's just given away a vital piece of information. Do you think of yourself as a girl?
No,
Why not?
I'm a boy.
Do you have the evidence about you?
I must be a boy. I like girls.
I can't quite follow the reasoning there.
Oh, well, many men imagine that a preference for Wimmo is ipso facto proof of virility.
Someone should really write a book of these folk myths. Take your pants down. I'll tell you which sex you belong to.
Oh, I'd rather not know.
You wish to remain in ignorance?
Yes.
I can't encourage you in such a self-indulgent attitude.
Oh, you're asking the boy to undergo repetition of a traumatic experience, sir. He might go insane.
He's in a madhouse. He couldn't choose a more appropriate place. Take your pants down. My time is valuable.
I can't go on, Doctor. I must tell the truth. I'm not a boy. I'm a girl.
Excellent. A confession at last. He wishes to believe he's a girl in order to minimize feelings of guilt after homosexual intercourse.
I pretended to be a boy. I did it to help Dr. Prentice.
How does it help a man if a girl pretends to be a boy?
Wives are angry if they find their husbands have undressed and seduced a girl.
But boys are fair game? I doubt what in your very personal view of society will go unchallenged.
Well, undress me then, Doctor. Do what you will. Only prove that I am a girl.
If he's going to carry on like this, he'll have to be strapped down.
Dr. Rance, could you take a look at Miss Barkley? She refuses to undress in front of a woman.
What about in front of a man?
Well, I haven't sounded her on that subject.
Perhaps I could tempt her. I'll give it a try. She may be a nymphomaniac. If this boy becomes foul-mouthed, keep him on hold until I return.
I'll go through the garden, Doctor. I can get a taxi home.
I'm afraid that isn't possible. And Dr. Rance has put strict security precautions in place until the patient is recaptured.
Well, when the patient's recaptured, then can I go?
No,
Why not?
you're the patient.
No.
Prentice, your secretary is standing on a table fighting off any attempt to undress her. She seems incapable of conducting herself in a proper manner.
Oh, she's given me no cause for complaint before.
But you'd expect a secretary to misbehave herself. It's a condition of employment. Do you realize the woman uses a razor?
Well, I see nothing remarkable in that. Mrs. Prentice often has occasion to remove unwanted hair.
From her chin? There are two sexes. The unpalatable truth must be faced. Your attempt at a merger can end in heartbreak.
Miss Barkley is calmer now. I've given her a sedative.
What an absorbing picture of the mind in decay. Why won't you allow Mrs. Prentice to undress you?
Her objections appear to be religious. She claims to be one with God.
Sit here. Were you present when Dr. Prentice used this youth unnaturally?
What is unnatural?
How disturbing the questions of the mad can be.
Has my husband misbehaved with that boy?
It's impossible to say with any degree of accuracy. He refuses to cooperate in a medical examination.
Where's the other boy?
What boy?
The boy my husband made undress.
This is the boy he made undress.
No, he made the boy undress who made himself a nuisance to me.
Isn't this the same one?
No.
There's another boy?
He was being interviewed for a secretarial post. My husband made him undress.
How long have you been a pervert?
I'm not a pervert.
How would you describe a man who mauls young boys, importunes policemen, and lives on terms of intimacy with a woman who shaves twice a day?
I'd say the man was a pervert.
I'm glad you're beginning to face the realities of the situation. Who are you then if you're not Nicholas Beckett?
He's Gerald Barkley, sir.
Is he this young woman's brother?
No.
What happened then to Nicholas Beckett?
He left about an hour ago to resume his duties at the station hotel.
I hope he hasn't lost another one. We'll be alone with our miracle drugs if many more go. Phone the station hotel and see if the boy has returned. Prentice, prepare the necessary papers. I'm certifying these two.
What?
Can't you do something about him, sir? He's out of his mind.
I'm a representative of order, you of chaos. Unless the fact is faced, I can never hope to cure you.
I can't agree to such drastic action, sir. Well, there's no proof of insanity. These children are no more ill than I am.
Your condition is worse than hers.
I can't accept that.
No madman ever accepts madness. Only the sane do that. I'm relieving you of your post as head of this clinic. You'll do as I say from now on.
I resent your handling of this affair, sir. I shall make my views known to the commissioners.
I doubt the views of a madman will carry much weight with the commissioner.
I'm not mad! It only seems that way.
Your actions today would get the Pope declared non-compos.
I'm not the Pope!
That will come in a later stage of your illness.
Your interpretation of my behavior is misplaced and erroneous. If anyone borders on lunacy, it's you yourself.
Bearing in mind your abnormality, that is a perfectly normal reaction. The sane appear as strange to the mad as the mad to the sane. Take two of these.
What are they?
Dangerous drugs, intended to relieve your pathologically elevated mood. Be sure not to exceed the stated dose. I shall return shortly. All of you remain here.
Why is he wearing my uniform?
Why is she wearing my shoes?
He's not a boy, he's a girl. She's not a girl, she's a boy. And we'll all be sharing the same cell at this rate.
If we change clothes, we can get things back to normal.
We'd then have to account for the disappearance of my secretary and the bellboy.
But they don't exist.
When people who don't exist disappear, the account of their disappearance must be convincing.
Is the policeman corruptible?
Why?
I need his uniform.
For what reason?
To arrest Nicholas Beckett.
But you're Nicholas Beckett.
Once I arrest myself, you can write me off.
Well, aren't you multiplying our problems instead of dividing them?
Some good pretext to get her out of the way, and she and I can exchange clothes.
Prentice, I'm putting this youth into a padded cell. Rampant hermaphroditism must be discouraged.
Quite right.
Twice declared insane in one day, and they said I'd be working for a cheerful, well-spoken crowd. Oh, I'm glad my parents are dead. This would have killed them.
I'll get the sergeant to undress so you can have his clothes. I'm suspected of the offense, I might as well commit it. We'll need something to calm him down. A mild tranquilizer wouldn't harm him. You'll find a box of antidepressants in the top left-hand drawer of my desk. Kindly step into my office, Sergeant. Hide in there.
You wish to speak to me, Doctor?
Yes. Dr. Rance has asked me to examine you. Please undress.
I haven't been interfered with, sir.
Never mind about that. Strip down your underwear.
If you make any attempt to arouse me, Doctor, I shall call for help.
It's easy to see why you've never been interfered with, and you place too many obstacles in the way. Hurry, speed is essential.
What are you doing with your pants down, officer?
The doctor wished to examine me.
Why?
There's reason to believe I had a nasty experience a short time ago.
What kind of experience?
But he'd been meddled with.
By whom?
Me.
Then why are you examining him?
Oh, to find out whether his story is correct.
Don't you know?
No, I didn't feel a thing.
Where is Dr. Rance?
Oh, he's just certified the bellboy. He's putting him into a padded cell.
I must speak to him. Things are getting out of control.
Remove your trousers, Sergeant, and we'll continue. Swallow these. Take as many as you like. They're completely harmless. Lie on the couch with your hands behind your head and think of the closing chapters of your favorite work of fiction. The rest may be left up to me. There's a summer house in the garden. You won't be disturbed in there.
The hat, sir.
The hat, Sergeant.
In the hall, Doctor.
It's in the hall, Nick.
Miss Barkley's clothes are in the closet.
Where is Dr. Prentice?
I don't know. When I returned the call from town, he was addressing the sergeant.
How would you describe his relations with the sergeant?
Strange and in many ways puzzling. He kept calling him into the room and then abruptly dismissing him.
Playing the coquette, eh? Well, it adds spice to a love affair. Is there any news of the missing patient?
None.
And what is the report from the station hotel?
They state they have no Gerald Barkley on their records. The boy you've certified is an imposter.
And what of Nicholas Beckett, the real bellboy?
I don't know. And when I called the hotel, they state he hasn't returned. And when he disappeared, his clothes were in my possession.
Two young people, one mad and one sexually insatiable, both naked, are roaming this house. At all costs, a collision must be prevented. This is incredible. When I publish it, it'll make my fortune. My documentary-type novelette will go into 12 record-breaking reprints. I'll be able to leave my service of the government and bask in the attention of those who, like myself, find other people's iniquity puts money in their pocket. Now, what's this? The pills I've given your husband. They're empty. He's taken an overdose. We have terrible evidence of conflict here. His poor, tortured mind, seeking release, has led him to attempt to destroy himself.
Suicide? This is so unexpected.
Just when one least expects it, the unexpected always happens. Come, we must find him.
Miss Barkley has escaped from the padded cell.
Oh.
Let's set him in the chair.
My God, I poisoned him.
He's frozen, sir.
It's an effect of the drug. We
We see the same process that works in corpses. We get him out in the open air, he'll be all right.
Let's get some clothes on him, then we can dump him in the garden.
How will we explain the presence of the drugged officer in my garden?
You're guilty. You don't have to explain. Only the innocent do that. Good enough.
Oh, if this ever gets out, I should be reduced to casting horoscopes.
Dr. Rance, I just saw my husband carrying a woman's body into the shrubbery.
Then a new and frightening possibility presents itself. The drugs in that box may not have been used for suicide, but for murder. Your husband has done away with his secretary. Lunatics are often melodramatic. The subtleties of drama are always wasted on them. Everything is now clear. The final chapters of my book are knitting together. Incest, buggery, outrageous women, and strange love cults catering to depraved appetites. All the fashionable bric-a-brac. My unbiased account of the case of the infamous sex killer Prentice will undoubtedly add a great deal to our knowledge of such creatures. Society must be made aware of the growing menace of pornography. The whole treacherous avant-garde movement must be exposed for what it is. An instrument for inciting decent citizens to commit bizarre crimes against humanity and the state. You have under your roof, my dear, one of the most remarkable lunatics of all time. As a transvestite, fetishist, bisexual murderer, Dr. Prentice displays considerable deviation overlap. We may get necrophilia, too, as a sort of bonus. Would you confirm, Prentice, that your wife saw you carrying a body into the shrubbery?
Yes, I have an explanation for my conduct.
I've no use for your explanations. I can provide my own. Where is your secretary?
I've given her the sack.
He's killed her and put the body in a sack. The word association is very clear.
I haven't killed anybody.
Your answer is in accord with the complex structure of your neurosis.
The person my wife saw me with wasn't dead. They were asleep.
He hopes for resurrection. We may have a link here to a primitive religion. Why have you turned your back on the God of your fathers?
I'm a rationalist.
You can't be a rationalist in an irrational world. It isn't rational. Was it your intent to wear these shoes for autoerotic excitement?
Oh, no, I'm a perfectly normal man.
His belief in normality is quite abnormal. Did you take the clothes off your victim before or after it died?
Nobody died. The person my wife saw me with was a police officer who'd taken an overdose of narcotics.
He was dressed as a woman?
He was a man for all that.
Women wear dresses, Prentice, not men. I won't be a party to the wanton destruction of a fine old tradition. Did you exchange clothes with the victim before or after it had died?
Nobody died. The person you saw me with was a cop who'd taken too many drugs.
Why was he dressed as a woman?
He was naked when I found him. The dress was readily to hand.
Well, where were his own clothes?
A boy had stolen them.
It is time to call a halt to this Greco-Roman hallucination. Have you a straitjacket in the house?
Modern methods have rendered the straitjacket obsolete.
I'm well aware of that, but we still use them nonetheless. Have you any here?
The orderly has a few.
With your husband in his current condition, we can waste no time in putting him under restraint. Keep him occupied until I return.
Is this another one of your plots to undermine my reputation for sound judgment? You treacherous harpy!
Now, darling, the doctor thinks you caused the poor girl's death. You might be called upon to take a period of restraint.
Miss Barkley isn't dead!
Producer, and all your problems will be over.
I can't.
Why not?
You're wearing her dress. You interrupted me this morning when I was trying to seduce her.
Now, darling, if we're to save our marriage, you must admit you prefer boys to women.
I won't have you making scandalous allegations about a matter of which you know nothing.
The bellboy accused you of acting in an indecent manner.
It wasn't a boy, it was a girl.
Admit that you prefer your sex to mine. I have no problem saying that I do.
You filthy degenerate. Take your clothes off.
Are you going to beat me? Do if you wish. Your psychotic experiences should be encouraged rather than thwarted or repressed.
Oh, darling, this is the way to sexual adjustment in a marriage.
What are you doing?
Doctor, while you were gone, my husband became violent and struck me.
Did you enjoy it?
At first, but the pleasures of the senses quickly pale.
With your husband in his current condition, we must waste no time in putting him under restraint. We shall need help in the endeavor. Have you no brawny youth upon whom you can call in times of stress?
I'm a married woman. What you're saying is in the worst of taste.
Doctor, I'd like a word with you about my brother, Nicholas Beckett. I've just arrested him.
Why?
He broken the law.
And because of that, he's being treated as a common criminal? What happened to the Anglo-Saxon love of fair play? Did you see Dr. Prentice in the garden?
No.
We must find him. We have reason to believe he's killed his secretary.
He can't have. He's one of the 1,000 points of light.
These cabalistic signs are of no more use in warding off evil than the stars and moons on a sorcerer's hat. We shall need you to help in finding Dr. Prentice.
Oh, doctor, I'm sick of all this. I have to make a confession.
Well, you must call for an appointment. I can't listen to confessions off the cuff.
I am Nicholas Beckett. I addressed as Geraldine Barkley at the doctor's request, never imagining I was unwittingly assisting a psychopath. That's why I objected to being undressed. Would have embarrassed me.
Have you aided other men in their perverted follies?
In my last term at school, I was a slave to a corporal in the army.
Were you never warned of the dangers inherent in such relationships?
When he was sent overseas, he left me a copy of The Way to Healthy Manhood.
A case of opening the back door after the horse is in. This is a straitjacket. We shall need your help in persuading Dr. Prentice to put it on. There may be violence. His body has a mind of its own. Have you any guns?
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 Guns.
I don't know.
Here. There are two. Take one.
Doctor, will you make sure before you fire that my husband isn't waving a white flag?
A white flag can be used as an offensive weapon. I'm loath to certify a fellow psychiatrist. It causes such bad feelings within the profession.
Take no chances. Call for help as soon as you see Dr. Prentice.
Oh, there you are. I want your help in getting things back to normal in this house.
I'm still ready to be examined when you are, Doctor.
They're combing the grounds for us, Doctor. They've got guns. What shall we do?
Take off your clothes, both of you. It would help me considerably if you both get undressed.
If I do that, sir, will you put this on?
Certainly not. That's a straitjacket. You've been living too long at the station hotel to know how decent people behave. Now get undressed, both of you.
You're behaving like a maniac.
He is a maniac. He murdered a woman and hid her body somewhere.
Who's responsible for these vile stories?
Dr. Rance is having you certified. I've got to get you into this.
I'm ready whenever you are, Doctor.
Would you cut that out? Take off your clothes. Don't you know the penalty for impersonating a sergeant? Give the uniform to the girl. Hopefully all of our problems will be solved.
There you are. Come with me and lie down.
The woman is insatiable.
Either you make love to me, or I shall shoot you.
A husband can't be expected to give his best at gunpoint.
When did these delusions first start? I have no trouble guessing what's on your mind. Are you having marital troubles?
Yes, and my husband refuses to prescribe anything for them.
Husband shouldn't have to drug his wife in order to achieve a happy union.
I don't want drugs. I want account taken for my sexual nature.
Where do you keep the tranquilizers? Ha! At last we caught the patient. Help me get her into a straitjacket.
I'm not a patient. I am telling the truth.
It's much too late for the truth. These final harrowing scenes will be lavishly illustrated with graphs showing the effect of her downfall upon her poor, tortured mind. Help me, please. Meanwhile, it's Temple of Love. The hideous Dr. Prentice's alkaloid are praying to their false gods, unaware that the forces of reason have got their measure. Fetch a syringe.
What have I done to deserve this? I've always lived such a respectable life.
Where is the body?
I don't know.
Are you under the seal of confessional? What black rites were you sworn into with that foul priest of the unknown? Let me cure your neurosis. It's the only thing I want out of life.
What's the meaning of this exhibition?
It's a new and hitherto untried type of therapy. I think it's viable under the circumstances.
Well, your treatment seems designed to plunge the patient deeper into lunacy rather than give any lasting cure.
Someone whose subconscious is as quirky as yours can hardly be expected to understand my methods.
What do you mean by that?
I'm referring to those naked men you keep seeing with an increasing degree of frequency.
You've seen them too.
What does that prove? Merely that you've given me your wretched disease. Give me this.
Shouldn't I swab the patient's arm first?
You don't actually imagine I'm going to waste this stuff on her, do you? For what it costs an ounce, it'd be criminal. Go and call the police.
Oh, there's a naked policeman in the middle of the garden.
If he is indeed naked, then how do you presume that he's a policeman?
He's wearing his hat.
The bounds of decency have long been overstepped in this house. Remain where you are. I will call the police.
I'm losing my mind.
Help me.
Why are you tied up?
Dr. Rance did it. He says I'm mad.
Well, he's a psychiatrist. He must know. He wouldn't put you in that straitjacket if you were sane. He'd have to be mad.
He is mad.
Is she mad?
She thinks she is. She imagines you're a figment of her imagination.
Mrs. Prentice. She can see me. Doesn't that prove I'm real?
No, she's mad.
Well, if you think I'm a fan of your subconscious, then you must be mad.
What are you doing with that gun? Are you mad?
I am mad.
Help me get her to a straitjacket.
You're mad. Take your bed.
Stop that! Are you all mad? A husband must be allowed to put his own wife into a straitjacket. It's one of the few pleasures left in modern marriage. Give me that. Stand back. Dr. Rance, your behavior today has been a model of official irresponsibility, and I'm going to certify you.
No, I'm going to certify you.
I have the gun. You have the choice, madness or death, neither of which will allow you to be continued to be employed by the government.
That isn't entirely true. The higher reaches of the civil service recruit entirely from either madmen or corpses. Your deterrent is useless. Put it down. I'll have you in a jacket within the hour.
Oh, is that a record for you?
By no means. I once put an entire family into a communal straitjacket.
Oh, your mother must have been proud.
She wasn't, I'm afraid. You see, it was my own family. I have a snapshot of the scene at home. My foot placed squarely upon my father's head. I sent a copy to Dr. Ruth and got a charming postcard in reply.
I'm still ready to be examined, Doctor.
Where is Geraldine Barkley?
I'm here!
Will you please, Producer Cosby, produce the missing parts of Ronald Reagan?
Give me that! Stop! All of you! We are now approaching what our racier novelists term the climax. Unhand my wife! And the young girl, too. The story you're about to hear is concerned solely with the heart. The mind and its mysteries could not have been further from my thought when this morning, at what must have been the most ill-timed attempted seduction ever, I persuaded that young girl to take her clothes off.
Mrs. Prentice mistook my dress for her own, and by an oversight, you mistook me for a patient. Dr. Prentice asked me to keep quiet in order to protect his good name. What could I do? I was terrified of exposure.
You were naked at the time?
Yes. Under duress, I agreed to help the doctor. I've never ceased reproaching myself. The whole day's been spent fighting to retain my self-respect.
Oh, if I ever live to be 90, I'll never attempt sexual intercourse again.
I'm willing to stake my professional reputation upon the fact that this girl's been the victim of an incestuous attack, and I won't go back on my diagnosis. My publishers would sue me for loss of royalties.
Oh, I'm sure my shorthand speed has been affected by what I've suffered today. And I wish to report the loss of my lucky elephant charm.
Is this the piece of jewelry with which you refer?
Yes. It has great sentimental value.
Look, I've got one like that.
A single brooch can be made of these two fragments. Oh, my heart is beating like a wild thing.
It's true!
2 elephants carrying a richly engraved hoda, in which is seated a young and beautiful woman. A magnificent example of Oriental craftsmanship. How did you know it was a single piece?
It belonged to me once. Many years ago, when I was a young woman, I was raped in a closet on the 2nd floor of the station hotel. The man pressed the brooch into my hand as part payment as he left.
How did the children come in possession of the separate halves?
I paid for my misdemeanor by conceiving twins. I was unable to keep them because by that time I was engaged to a promising young psychiatrist. I decided to abandon them to their own fate. I pinned a piece of the brooch on each babe and placed them at either end of the small country town in which I was a resident. Some kind people must have brought them up as their own. Oh, children, can you ever forgive me for what I've done?
What kind of mother must you have been to stay alone at the station hotel?
I was employed there as a chambermaid shortly after the war. The effect of the Republican government on the middle class had to be seen to be believed.
Mother!
Son!
Was our father also employed by the station hotel?
I never saw your father. The incident occurred during a blackout. I became pregnant as I waited for normal services to be resumed. Mother!
Oh, my God.
You'll find an inscription on the back of the brooch, sir. To Lillian, from Avis. Christmas, 1959.
It's true!
I found that brooch on the pavement outside a large department store.
Who were Lillian and Avis?
I've no idea. It fell from the collar of a Pekingese. Lillian and Avis may have been the creature's owners. I haven't seen that brooch since I pressed it into the hand of a chambermaid whom I debauched shortly before my marriage.
Now I understand what you meant when you said you wanted to spend our wedding night in the linen closet.
I wish to recreate a moment that was very precious to me. My darling!
Feelings, nothing more than feelings.
We've been instrumental in uncovering a number of remarkable peccadillos today.
If you are indeed this child's father, then my book can be written in good faith. She is the victim of an incestuous attack.
And so was I, Doctor. My son has a series of photographs that proves beyond a doubt he tried to seduce me in the same hotel, in the same linen closet where his conception took place.
Double incest is even more likely to produce a bestseller than murder. And this is how it should be, as love must bring greater joy than violence.
Come, let us put our clothes on and face the world.